Welcome back to Questing Beast. I am Ben. Today we're taking a look at Barkeep on the Borderlands. This is a zine adventure for old school D&D, and it is a take on the original Keep on the Borderlands, a very early D&D adventure. This is set much later in the future after that point, and you will be doing not a hex crawl or a point crawl exactly, but a pub crawl. You'll be traveling through this town, going from pub to pub, having adventures, having encounters, all the while there is a kind of meta story happening in the background. This print edition that I was sent is on some really nice paper. It is all stitch bound, you can see here. This is the full cover done by Sam Amelli, who also illustrated The Waking of Willoughby Hall, my adventure. And inside we have the map of the whole location right here, map of the keep, with all of the different pubs that you can explore. Each of these pubs is going to have a full 2-page spread later on in the zine, fleshing out what's there and all the different encounters and people that you might meet. One of the most fun things about this adventure is that it is a very collaborative adventure. It's put together by lots of people from the old school D&D scene. Prismatic Wasteland put this together. It's one of my favorite blogs. And we can see writing is done by Ann Hunter, Ava Islam, Ben Lawrence, Chris McDowell, Emmy Verte, Gus L., Luca Reyes, Marcia B. Lots of people that you may have seen before. We even have one by ZXU who did Thousand Islands. It starts off with a brief history of the keep and some advice on how to use this adventure. You can use it as a complete adventure where you can, over the course of a week or so, this big festival that's going on in the city, explore this whole town and meet all the different people and all the different pubs, or you can steal bits and pieces. Because if you're just having a normal D&D adventure out in the wilderness somewhere and you need a pub or an inn, you can just grab one of them from this book and slap it into your own adventure. One of the meta stories here is that the monarch of the town is dying, of their being poisoned in some way, and an antidote has been prepared and has been sent to the town to cure them, but the antidote has been lost along the way and is now somewhere in the town, and it's constantly getting mixed up and transported from place to place during all of the festivities. So the players could be tasked to try and track that down, or perhaps create a new antidote if they can find all of the component pieces. There's some starting backgrounds for the Jolly Crew. That's just the NPC party. So if you want to, if you're starting a new game just for this adventure, you could roll up a random background. You could be a beleaguered bouncer or a dirty trickster or a juvenile delinquent. They tend to fit in better with a bar crawl than your typical D&D adventures. But of course, you can do whatever you want. Major factions of the keep is the monarchy, the interregnum, the Church of Chaos, the quasi-parliament, the pan-goblinic council, and the academy. So all of these factions have their own desires, their own wants, and they are in the background. And if you have a lot of encounters while you're doing this bar crawl, you will find different members of these factions doing their own things, and you can possibly help them or hinder them. You have the neighborhoods and locations in the keep and some extra sidetracks that you could run into as you are traveling from place to place. Timeline of the Raves of Chaos. This is this week-long celebration that you're a part of. Raves of Chaos being a joke because it's similar to the Caves of Chaos, which is a location near the original Keep on the Borderlands adventure. But over the course of these 6 days, things are going to be happening, and there's going to be a timeline of events that will occur if you don't interfere in it, and players probably will. One thing I quite like about it is that there is the antidote location, which is spelled out exactly where it is on each day as it is traveled around and bounced from place to place over the festivities. But as you travel from bar to bar, if you investigate a lot of rumors and ask questions, you definitely have a chance of getting clues as to where it currently is. And that's going to help you track it down. All of these different elements are weaved together very nicely in this adventure. It's definitely not a railroad at all. It depends on what the players want to do, and the ending is going to be anyone's guess because any number of things could possibly happen depending on their involvement or the players' lack of involvement if they decide that they don't want anything to do with the main plot line. The heir to the throne is on a mission to save their parents' life, so they are also tracking down the antidote. You could possibly join forces with them. But there is also a number of ingredients that you could use to make a new antidote that are scattered around the adventure you could also track down. There's an election that's going on. We're slowly getting closer to that. And there's some rules here for keeping track of time because strict time records must be kept, as we all know. We've got some pub crawl, point crawl procedures right here for how you're going to be traveling from place to place and keeping track of time. Basically, things are broken down into turns, which are kind of indeterminate amount of time. And every time a turn elapses where you take a major action, you're going to roll the die. There could be a setback. You can roll a random setback from this book. Drinking. So there's drinking rules over here to show how you're getting progressively drunk or possibly trying to recover. Or if you get a 5 or a 6, you're going to mark time and time moves forward 1 hour. You do have to keep track of time because the bars are only open for a certain amount of time. Then they'll close and you'll go on to the next day and there'll be new events. Of course, you have to have drinking rules over here. Basically, you have a starting sobriety die, which depends on your constitution score. And this is a system where you roll the die whenever you drink. And if you roll a 1, 2, or 3, then the size of your die moves down to the next category. And if you get down to a D6, you're tipsy, D4, you're drunk, and then you are blackout drunk. And there is different benefits and disadvantages for each of those states. You of course could try just not drinking at all or drinking water, and you can sober up a little bit, but it will make people suspicious and they will be much less likely to talk to you. Being tipsy actually has some advantages. For example, you have an advantage on all charisma saves and tests. So this is a very social investigation kind of adventure. So if you're talking to a lot of people, being tipsy is really great, but it also puts you at this risky point where you could drop down to being drunk. So there's a bit of risk and reward right there. If you get all the way down to blackout drunk, then you'll be rolling a die to see who makes decisions for your character. It could be you, but it could also be another player of your choice or the referee. Now we're only on page 20 and the rest of this is a 60-page zine. So what is on the rest of those 40 pages? It's just the pubs. Every single one is a 2-page spread, like this one, for example. This one's Granny's Cottage. And basically what they have there is they have a short summary. This one says, over the river and through the woods, there is a quaint dive bar. Its walls are gingerbread. Its windows are crystallized sugar. The crone that runs it is in constant good cheer. Pay no mind to the pitch black smoke billowing from its chimney. And there's typically a number of random tables that you can encounter here. Granny's Guess, so you roll a d6, and let's say you rolled a 4, that means people 1 through 4 are currently there. And then you can also have sidetracks. If you roll that on the hazard die or whatever it's called, then these are different things that could happen there, basically encounters that you can try and deal with. There's what is Granny doing over here. There are signature drinks. Every single one of the bars has their own list of drinks, which is really fun because they're all themed around the theme of the bar itself, and a whole bunch more situations that you can put the players at risk or possibly give them some reward or give them some more clues. Some of the drinks for Granny's Cottage are, we have for 1 silver coin, you can buy the Glass Slipper, a vodka drink served in a shoe, available only before midnight. Or perhaps the Poison Appletini, a sour cocktail with a bone white froth. Finishing it causes the effect of the Feign Death spell for 1 day. Possibly good as a weapon. If you trick someone to drinking it, you can knock them out flat, and that could be very useful. Every one of these bars has a little diagram down here where you see where they are connected to. So you don't even have to flip back to the main map if you don't want to. Now, I do have a couple quibbles with the book itself. Overall, it looks really fun to play. But one thing is that the paper quality, while it is very nice and has a nice texture to it, is maybe a little bit too textured, especially in combination with the very small writing, makes things a little bit difficult to read. Not a huge complaint, but there it is. Also, the illustrations, which are a lot of fun, are often just very small and just kind of scattered around through things where it's a bit difficult to see what they are, really give you much of an impression. It would be nicer, I think, if it was rearranged so that you had maybe fewer illustrations, but larger and a bit bolder. As it is, they're more like decorations. So whether you like that or not is really up to you. Some of the other bars include Off Central Park, which is sort of a beer garden out in the open. The Watchtower Without Wizard. This is a wizard's tower that has been hijacked by his interns and is now floating around upside down attached to some hot air balloons. So all of the floors are on the ceilings of the original tower. A number of places have situations that actually change over time. So as time goes by, maybe you're later in the week, new kinds of situations will unlock or become available if you roll high enough. We have the Braven Boulevardier. The Brutal Legion, I think this one was done by Chris McDowell of Into the Odd. Our Lady of the Sacred Speakeasy. There's some really great maps. These cutaways here give you a very clear idea of what's going to be going on in there. The layout doesn't matter all that much. We're not like measuring 5-foot squares or anything, but you can easily explain to the players what they're seeing and where the rooms are relative to the other just by looking at these little diagrams. Someone's apartment is basically their apartment from Seinfeld. And that no one is currently in. Some people have found this unlocked apartment and are just having a party there. The Warm Shoulder, the Whirling Mummy. I think this one was done by ZXCO. So this one is page 38 and 39. If we go to the front, yeah, so that one was ZXCO. You can always refer to the front. It'd be nice if it had the author of the different bars written on it. That would be really cool. I don't think it's on here. At least I didn't see it. The Bar at the Beginning of the Universe. This one is all illustrated by Luca Reyes. It's a very Luca Reyes kind of location where there's a lot of time going on here and time distortions. There's the Quasi-Parliament, the Royal Wine Cellar inside the original keep, the Savings and Lonely Hearts Club, the Untippler's Nook, the Bird Cage, the The Original Tavern from the original adventure. The Ship of Thesis. So this one was a dive bar catered to sailors and dock workers before it became a hip hangout for students. Hence the Ship of Thesis. Haha, there's a lot of dumb puns in it, which I love. Somnambulas and Three's Company. So there was just a ton of information in here. This is just a very dense book that's packed with content for you to run. So I imagine if you ran this adventure, it probably wouldn't be one session. It is a rather long adventure because there's these multiple days that you would go over. So maybe several sessions to finish this up. But if you ran this several times with different groups, you would have completely different adventures because the encounters and the situations and the sidetracks and the people that you meet would be different every time. I love an adventure that gives you lots of content, and this is absolutely brimming with it. As usual, I will put links in the description below where you can pick this up in either print or in PDF form. And last I checked, I believe this is actually nominated for an Ennie Award. I forget which Ennie Award, but it certainly deserves one because this is one of the most fun zines I've read in quite a long time. Before we go, shout out to all of my recent patrons over on Patreon. Thank you for all your patience in me getting out a new video. It's been a little while, I know, because I've been working on Knave 2nd Edition, but I really couldn't pass this one up. Thank you so much for your support and keeping Questing Beast going. And thanks to all of you for watching. See you guys next time.